I actually think that this is kind of a historic entry point because all of the risk has been stripped off the asset. Like, you pretty much know Wall Street's going to embrace it, the U.S. government's going to embrace it, and banks in the U.S. going to embrace it, which means that all the other banks will embrace it. You already know all those things, and yet the market is really skittish based upon concerns about tariffs, the disposition of the U.S. economy, the interest rate forward graph. And so you see the interest rates have pulled in 30, 40, 50 basis points, and we're in this macro risk off zone. When that flips, I think Bitcoin will rip forward with a vengeance.
The crypto market has seen its fair share of roller coaster moments, leaving many investors in doubt. But what if the next phase is not just another dip, but the opportunity of a lifetime? Despite the current economic turmoil, rising tariffs, uncertainty around the U.S. economy, and fluctuating interest rates, Bitcoin is poised for a mind-blowing transformation. This isn't just another moment of volatility, it's the calm before a storm of unprecedented growth. Michael Saylor, one of Bitcoin's most ardent champions, calls this moment a historic entry point, a chance that might never come again. He believes the risk surrounding Bitcoin is now all but eliminated. With Wall Street, U.S. banks, and even government entities signaling their move toward embracing Bitcoin, the writing is on the wall. Institutional adoption is on the horizon. The current macroeconomic turbulence? It's a temporary blip. Saylor predicts that once the storm passes and the economic landscape stabilizes, Bitcoin will soar with a vengeance, like nothing we've seen before. This is your chance to enter the market at a pivotal moment before the wave of institutional money pushes Bitcoin to unimaginable heights. Let's watch clips from Michael Saylor's explosive interview to gain more insight. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications for additional in-depth content. Thanks for joining us again. Enjoy the video.
I actually think this is a historic inflection point for Bitcoin because all of the very important questions have been resolved to the satisfaction of the asset. The question is it a commodity or a security? That's really, really critical. The second question is there any other digital commodity? A third question is, how does the administration view it, right? There's always a question of, will it be copied, will it be banned, will it be hacked? So what we've seen over the past 12 months is we saw the spot ETFs approved. They were historically successful. Then we saw a red sweep. Now we see an administration where every single cabinet member is pro-Bitcoin. Every financial cabinet member, the head of the SEC, Treasury, and CFTC, pro-Bitcoin. And then the question is, will the administration be clear or ambiguous? Well, Trump created the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, very clear. And then he hosted the Digital Assets Summit Friday about a week and a half ago. And then that night, the crypto czar David Sachs went on television. And in an interview on television, he said that Bitcoin is the only crypto asset recognized as decentralized by the administration. Well, that's code word if you understand the law, understand securities law, understand finance. If that's the only asset decentralized, that means that the only crypto commodity recognized by the United States government and therefore by the entire financial establishment is Bitcoin. Ergo, Bitcoin has emerged as digital gold with the endorsement of the U.S. federal government, with the endorsement of Wall Street. That's what David Sachs said on television. David Sachs reports to the President of the United States, and what he said was, this is the one we recognize as decentralized. Bitcoin is special. We're going to hold it forever. We're never going to sell it. Okay, that's clarity, right? If you're looking for the crypto gold, or a digital gold or a digital capital asset that's a store of value, that's Bitcoin. I'll make one legal point. The legal point is it is illegal to capitalize a public company on a security. So you can only capitalize, but when I say capitalize, I mean if I have $1 billion of liquid assets, I can buy $1 billion of real estate, $1 billion of gold, $1 billion of soybeans, $1 billion of crude oil, or $1 billion of Bitcoin. I cannot buy $1 billion of Mag 7 stocks, $1 billion of Apple, $1 billion of the S&P index. And so the fact that Bitcoin is recognized as a commodity and the only crypto commodity it creates a very safe haven for any public company or public company investor looking for the winner. And what's the implication? It's this. The administration is very pro-digital assets. In my opinion, when the dust settles, there's going to be digital commodities, of which Bitcoin is the only universally acknowledged one. There may be some over the next decade. It'll be very hard to overcome that bar. And I think David Sachs said that as well. He said, it's possible that maybe we'll recognize another asset as decentralized. We don't right now. And there's maybe going to be half a dozen of those in the next 10 or 20 years. That's very rare. The second is a digital currency. That's a stable coin, and so the government's gonna pass. I think the Genius Act will be passed. The U.S. government will allow a U.S. regulated company or bank to issue a stable coin as long as it's backed by treasuries, by currency equivalents in a U.S. Regulated institution. The third asset will be digital securities. That's tokenized stocks and bonds. I think you'll have to be a regulated entity. BlackRock will issue digital securities. You'll get a digital share of Apple or a digital ETF. And they'll circulate 24/7, 365. And then the last will be a digital token. And a digital token will be the lowest threshold. Anybody can launch a token. It won't be a security. It will stop short in the utility that's deemed legally a security. Right now, the SEC is going through an elaborate set of meetings to determine what constitutes a security. Trump coin will not be a security. We know that. Sachs has even said that. It's likely going to end up being deemed a token. And I think if I'm in the crypto industry, the takeaway is the only thing where you've got regulatory clarity, if you're going to put $1 billion bet on right now, the only thing you would do is put $1 billion bet on Bitcoin as a long-term store of value. That is clear. The president said he wants the digital assets framework on his desk by August at the White House a week and a half ago. I think you will have clarity that will be passed into law and signed by the president sometime in 2025 that will create a very clear path for digital currency, digital tokens, and digital securities. They're coming. But right now, the real news of the past 2 weeks is there's one digital commodity endorsed by the U.S. federal government.
Bitcoin stands at a historic inflection point, with key questions about its future now answered. With the U.S. government recognizing it as a commodity and Wall Street embracing it, Bitcoin has solidified its status as digital gold. While other digital assets may emerge, Bitcoin's legal clarity and governmental support ensure its dominance in the market. As regulatory frameworks continue to strengthen, Bitcoin's position as the leader in the crypto space becomes even more evident, making it a prime long-term investment. Bitcoin is considered one of the most valuable financial assets, boasting immense leverage, liquidity, and increasing institutional backing. Its unique 21 million coin limit, regulatory clarity, and growing recognition make it stand out from other assets. Additionally, Bitcoin's impressive performance, with annual returns of up to 60%, underscores its value as a critical component in any diversified portfolio. For those seeking maximum growth, Bitcoin is now seen as an essential addition to investment strategies. Let's watch more clips from the interview.
I think Bitcoin is the most useful financial asset in the world. On Twitter, or on X this weekend, the chatter was someone posted $10 million and took like a 40-to-1 leveraged short bet. And so where else can you actually get $500 million of credit by posting $10 million of collateral on the weekend? And so you have massive leverage available, massive liquidity available. And whenever there's a macro theme, if people are wanting to be short risk assets or short anything, the one thing you can short 40 to 1, cross-collateralized by anything, is Bitcoin. So it's going to be more it's going to be more volatile. But I actually think that this is kind of a historic entry point because all of the risk has been stripped off the asset. Like, you pretty much know Wall Street's going to embrace it, the U.S. government's going to embrace it, and banks in the U.S. going to embrace it, which means that all the other banks will embrace it. You already know all those things, and yet the market is really skittish based upon concerns about tariffs, the disposition of the U.S. economy, the interest rate forward graph. And so you see the interest rates have pulled in 30, 40, 50 basis points, and we're in this macro risk-off zone. When that flips, I think Bitcoin will rip forward with a vengeance. The only asset endorsed by a president of the United States in 50 years is Bitcoin. I mean, go back in the last 200 years in the history of the country, and I think if you go to the Founding Fathers, they wrote in the Constitution that money is silver and gold coin. And then at some point, there was a chicken in every pot, and maybe with the founding of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, we endorsed everybody to single-family home ownership. But in the 21st century, you have just one asset, Bitcoin. The president saying, don't sell your Bitcoin. Saying more than that, saying the United States won't sell its Bitcoin. And so everything else you put your client into, if the U.S. government seized any other security that you sold to a client, if they seized any collectible, any art, any real estate, they would sell it. The only thing that the U.S. government won't sell if they are to seize it is Bitcoin. And so what do I think about suitability? I think that you've got the president telling you, you've got David Sachs telling you, you've got Scott Bessent on television this weekend saying, we're going to be the leader in digital assets. You've got the most successful ETF in the history of Wall Street, IBIT. You've got $140 billion of capital flowing into spot ETFs in 12 months. And you've got Bitcoin outperforming everything in everybody's portfolio. And you have the most successful commodity in the history of the world, right? Every other commodity, by the way, is a dog, right? You shouldn't be investing in soybeans or, holding natural gas or
gold,
oil or gold or wheat or corn, because it's pretty obvious capital and know-how will produce infinite supply of that. Bitcoin's the only commodity with a hard cap of 21 million. And so on one hand, a commodity has so many legal advantages. You can market it, you can hold it, you can capitalize a country on it and a company on it. And so it's a big advantage to be a commodity over security, but the only commodity that's going to outperform the S&P index and the cost of capital is Bitcoin. And so right now, something nobody else knows. If you basically take advantage of that knowledge, I think you make your clients a lot of money. I mean, I think over the last decade, Bitcoin's had the best Sharpe ratio. And there's been tons of statistical studies that said if you put 1%, 2%, 3% in a portfolio, it improves the performance of the portfolio and improves the Sharpe ratio of the portfolio. It's kind of like sucralose. It's like this universal sweetener. It just makes everything sweeter. Bitcoin's been running about a 60 ARR, 60 vol for the past 4 to 8 years. I think that, ironically, most people don't want 60 ARR. They'd rather have 15 ARR, 15 vol. But at the end of the day, if you're looking for the highest performance asset, Bitcoin is it. And if you've got a diversified portfolio, it seems to me like you could put it into a bond portfolio, a stock portfolio, a real estate portfolio. It's only going to improve the performance and improve the Sharpe ratio.
The cryptocurrency market is experiencing a typical correction, with Bitcoin pulling back from its January peak of $109,000. Analysts, including Ben Simpson, attribute this dip to macroeconomic conditions and global liquidity challenges, emphasizing that it's a normal correction within the larger market cycle. Bitcoin's performance is largely influenced by traditional market conditions, especially interest rates and tariffs, And the upcoming changes in US policy could catalyze a fresh wave of optimism in the market. As Michael Saylor points out, this moment in Bitcoin's history is a significant inflection point. He believes Bitcoin's risk has been stripped off, as key questions about its legal status as a commodity have been answered, with both the US government and Wall Street embracing the asset. Saylor stresses that Bitcoin's growing recognition as a commodity backed by government support positions it as the go-to financial asset. He predicts that once economic conditions stabilize, Bitcoin will surge forward, reflecting its true potential. Saylor's optimism aligns with the views of other analysts who also foresee Bitcoin's eventual breakout. They anticipate that as macroeconomic risks subside, Bitcoin will benefit from increased liquidity and positive regulatory developments. The crypto market's new narrative, likely driven by US rate cuts and easing measures, could set the stage for Bitcoin to reach new all-time highs. Thus, while corrections are expected, Bitcoin's long-term trajectory remains extremely bullish. As we wrap up, with the current volatility in the market, do you think Bitcoin's long-term trajectory is still bullish? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Share this video and hit the like button. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.